With us today, we have Dr. Brent Wilson. We also have Mr. Grady Jenkins, who I know is making his way to the seminar room, and also Mr. Edward Washington. Their biographies are presented for you on the back of the agenda, so I would encourage you to take a note and see what sort of the context and experiences they had for their comments are. And I welcome them to the front of the stage, and with that, by way of introduction, I will turn the program over to you. Thank you so much.
Do I have to sit in this big chair?
Sorry?
Do I have to sit in the big chair?
Wherever you feel comfortable.
Want to go first, Doctor?
I think you're up first.
My name is Edward Washington. I know many faces in this room. I'm glad to see you here. I won't call you out individually by name, but you know who you are. I grew up with Mr. Jenkins and Families First from about 1996 until 2000 when I exited and went to college. I never thought I'd be in foster care. That was a whole different experience, something new, but now, in hindsight, I thank God for foster care, because you won't hear this a lot to all my DFACS people in the room. I know who you are, but foster care really saved my life, and it provided an opportunity for me to take advantage of things that I never would have been presented to when I lived in the projects. So I really thank God for placing me in foster care and surrounding me by people who looked after me and took care of me, and for the ILP program who paid for my college and gave me a chance to go to college when I never thought I was college material or could ever make it to college. And I was so thankful for that, to be able to take advantage of that. And the state welcomed me to work for DHR downtown for 5 years and to learn why I came into foster care and how I can help others in foster care and how I can help my brothers and sisters. And I never dreamed of even working for the agency. That was a whole new experience, and I learned a lot from everybody there, good and bad. And I learned that, you know, people are on the other side actually working for the kids. And a lot of us grew up in foster care. We always hear the quote, "We hate DFACS, we want nothing to do with DFACS." And I can see how they can say that, not being on the inside and not seeing what people do on a daily basis and how people really work hard for their benefit or for our benefit. And I just like to say thank you to all the DFACS workers in here today for enriching my life, for enriching my brother's life, Anthony back there, and for making us a lot better, and for welcoming us and for stepping away from your own children and for taking time to enrich us and pour into us. And we know that's a sacrifice and a struggle. I work for the system. I know that it's limited pay, long hours, a lot of stress, a lot of deadlines, a lot of turnaround, especially with the new turnaround with governors. Excuse me. Hey, Pops.
Hey, doing?
A lot of turnaround, and so I just like to thank you guys for all the tireless work that you do, because we know that you're taking away from your own lives and away from your own families to pour into kids that you never met before. And so I like to thank you. I'll let, this is the guy who raised us in Families First. Mr. Jenkins, I'll let him introduce himself, and then I will steal the spotlight.
I'm Grady Jenkins. They're Pops. Okay. Is it my turn at this point?
I'll just let you introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you.
I came into Families First. He welcomed me into Families First through a process in 1996. And I remember sitting in his office in Midtown. I had just left. Those who've been working for the agency long enough know what the Delaney House is. I had just left the Delaney House, which is off Cleveland Avenue, Metropolitan Stewart Avenue back then. And he brought me to the Midtown office, and he said, "Edward, we would like for you to come stay at Families First." And he was looking over a file, and I was just thinking like, man, I'm on an interview to go to a group home? I must be special. And the only thing I didn't want to do, I was like, yes, I would come stay at Families First. I have 13 brothers and sisters. I wanted to make sure I'm the oldest. I wanted to make sure I stayed in contact with my brothers and sisters. He said yes. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't change schools. And it wasn't because I was doing well in my other school. I had a 0.00 grade average. So it wasn't that I was doing very well. It was just like I didn't want to change. I had like I had real bad buck teeth. And like I didn't want to like go through the jokes of the, you know, like the TV show Captain Bucky O'Hare. I had that. I was Bucky. I was just all kind of, I was like, I adjusted to this over here in the projects. I don't want to have to go to a whole different school and adjust. I don't want to have to beat nobody up on my first day. And he was just like, Edward, well, you're going to have to change school. And I was just like, man, you just got to give me some braces. Like, you just have to do something to get some braces. And he was like, we'll work on it. But I was just like, that'll never happen. So came to Families First. And it was so different. I have 8 sisters. So I'm used to being around a majority of girls. And in the home, it was 6 other boys and me. And I'm just like, why are there so many boys? Like, why isn't no girls here? Because at Delaney House, we had girls. They were on just a different floor. And we can get to them need be, but that story is not relevant. And I was just like, where are the girls? Like, why there's no girls? Why is it just an all boys group home? Because Oak Hill was boys and girls. So that's the only kind of group home, Caristeel Pitts. And so I knew group homes that was kind of like co-ed. I didn't know that it was just like this one little facility that just had boys. So I had to adjust to that. And it was just different, like meeting other people who grew up in the system. So in the shelter, everybody's kind of like on their own. Nobody really meshed. But here, you know, you had people that you had to stay in a room with. You got to get your own clothes. Coming from the shelter, you had to share clothes. They wanted you to share drawers, and I just couldn't do that. So I was just happy to be in a place where I can have my own. Like Mr. Jenkins made sure we had our own drawers. And I was happy for the little things. For the little things we got in the group home, man. You know, we had our evaluations, and Mr. Jenkins is the only man that I ever respected. You know, I didn't have a lot of men to respect growing up. And he placed like values on us. He made sure that we did our chores. You know, he made sure that we had a cooking night. He held me accountable for actions that no one else has ever had me accountable before. Like I said, I had a great grade point average of 0.00 leaving my other high school, and he wouldn't accept that. Nobody has ever been stern on me about my grade. He was just like, you can't have a 0.00 grade average. You have to do something different. Like, you have to go to school and actually learn. And so I was like, why do you care? I was just thinking to myself, like, why does he care? He doesn't know me. This is his job. This is why he's bringing me in. And he held me accountable for my grades. And so my grades started to come up, not for myself. At first it started off because I wanted to please him. He cared enough about me and poured enough into me that I just wanted to give something back. And so my grades started to rise, and I was happy. And then I decided, like, oh, I can do it for me as well. So everything started off in the beginning just about pleasing Mr. Jenkins, because no one ever took time, a male figure, to pour so much of his energy into me. Because I was like, as me and Anthony say, like, we were hell. Like, he's not gray now, but we gave him a lot of gray hair back then. I know I'm not gonna tell you his secrets, but he had a lot of gray hair back then. You know, it was a lot shorter. You know, he couldn't keep it long back then. He was pulling it out. So it's a lot longer now. So we gave him a lot of hell, but he really encouraged us, and he really fought for us. He gave us a lot of things that I know a lot of other group homes didn't get. For first of all, I got these braces. I can smile. I'm handsome. So he fought hard for those braces. He fought hard for us to go on family vacations and trips. He made sure that he put people in the home who cared about us and not our jobs. We had what we call house parents. And like, we treat them like our real parents. They never treated us like it was a job. Like, we interacted as if it was a family. And he made sure he put boys in the group home who were going to mesh with us. He just didn't do it off numbers alone. He put it in there. He knew our personality. He knew me and Anthony's personality. He even put my own brother in there with me. And that turned out to be a disaster. But just because he put him in there, just the thought alone made us very happy. He found my other foster home, group home brothers. He found some of their family members and put them together. So he did a lot outside the norm of what a normal social worker for a group home might do. And like I said, when I came there, I came off from being the father figure of my home. I'm the oldest of 13 siblings, so I cooked, I changed diapers, I made sure kids got home from daycare. At any instance, I sold drugs to provide for my household. I stole to provide for my household. So I come from a nurturing background of being a father figure, being stern. I never knew how to be a kid, because I never got a chance to be a kid. Even coming from Philadelphia, when we first came to Georgia, I never had a chance to actually go out there and play and go out there and do things. Everything I did was structured around providing and making sure my brothers and sisters had things for school. So if I got to walk outside bummy, I was okay with that. Like, I was a sacrifice so they can have new tennis shoes and new clothes to go to school, because I felt like, who gonna say something to me? Like, what you gonna say to me? I was bad. Like, I fought a lot. So a lot of people didn't really say a lot to me. So, you know, I kind of had the attitude, what you would call like a tough guy mentality growing up, because I had to. Like, I had to be that guy. It wasn't a choice, you know. So when I came in a group home, I mean, I'm not gonna put Anthony on the spot, but he can attest to a lot of this. Like, I did things that a normal 14, 15-year-old, like, not normal, but someone who has outgrown that childhood stage wouldn't do. Like, I run and hit Anthony and run back to my room, hide under cover. Like, nobody couldn't see me because I'm undercover. I run, turn off the TV. Because, like, I never, Mr. Jenkins, I run and just do all kind of bad little kid things that I never got a chance to do with my brothers and sisters, because I always had to be the stern one when they were doing those things. So he allowed me to do it, and he allowed me to get away with a lot of stuff at a normal level. He didn't punish me too bad, but he let me know this is what I expect, this was right, this was wrong. So he allowed me to get away with those things, and he never, which I thought was, you know, was weird at the time. Like, he never said, Edward, take this, or you need this kind of drug to calm you down. Like, I heard a lot about kids being on Ritalin and things like that, and like how they had to take all these drugs for medication and hyperactive, how they would be diagnosed. And like, he never said, Edward, you're this, or we're gonna put you on this. He just let me, I guess, I mean, he's a smart man. He recognized that, you know, from my perspective, that, you know, I was just getting this out. This is something I needed to work through. And he allowed me to work through it. And like, I'm so thankful that, you know, he didn't put me on any drugs or give me any kind of medication, because my family has a history with drugs. And I wanted to stay as far from any kind of drug. Like, I don't even take a Tylenol. Like, if my head hurt, I go to sleep. And it's not because, like, I'm trying to be macho. I'm afraid to handle any kind of drugs, because my family on both sides has a history of drug abuse, whether it's heroin, whether it's crack, whatever. Like, I'm just afraid to be on any kind of stimulant that will kind of get me addicted. So I'm just, like, so thankful that, like, I had Mr. Jenkins to be, you know, that guiding light. Like, I don't even look at him like a social worker. He's just Pops. Like, that's what I call him. When I call him, hey, Pops. It's not, hey, social worker from the past. How you doing? It's just like Pops. Like, he made us feel as if we were his children. And that's how we feel today. We never felt like, since the beginning, since he broke down what a lot of my brothers and sisters call that wall, since he broke down that wall to get inside our emotion, because, you know, as you guys know who work in this profession, a lot of kids build up a wall. And that's because different people are coming in and out of our lives. And some people say they're going to be here and there, they leave for 3 months. And then another person say they're going to be here, they leave. And then you have another person that promise you this and they leave. And then you just build up this wall and stop listening to people. And you begin to tell lies just to get them to shut up, basically. And Mr. Jenkins, he broke that down. And I don't know how he did it, but once he broke that down, it was a blessing to allow him in. And so that's Pops.
I wanted to wait till Mr. Jenkins got here before we set up a little structure around this. I'm Michelle Barkley, and I'm with the Committee on Justice for Children, and I'm the one who asked Edward to do this, and I'm so happy that you're here to share your story. How many of y'all know Edward or seen him present? A lot of you. How many of you have heard about Mr. Jenkins? Well, Mr. Jenkins in our little office is a legend. We've been hearing about Mr. Jenkins from Anthony and Edward and a number of other boys who are now men who he mentored. And so we've been hearing about him for quite a while. This person who came into their lives made such a difference. And both Edward and Anthony have told me about various, it's probably too strong a word, but traumatic experiences that you've talked about in open public arenas before, and that this person was part of the healing process. So I had the wonderful opportunity of meeting Mr. Jenkins at Edward's wedding this summer. And his little baby girl is back there, and his wife. And Mr. Jenkins and I said, I'm so happy to meet you because I've been hearing so much about you. And we had some time before the wedding started, and he ended up telling me some pretty amazing stories about how Edward presented when he came to the group home, and what some of the things that he had to ride through. And so we've talked a little bit to Edward about this, and I don't think Edward's going to be embarrassed, because he's telling you about how much he was running around as a child. But one of the things that Mr. Jenkins said to me is that Edward became a child. He came in as an adult, very, very adult, very strict, very stern, and that because Mr. Jenkins and staff tried to absorb some of that stuff off of him, off of Edward, Edward kind of reverted back to a child, and some of the behaviors looked kind of strange. And I'm not going to tell you more, because I want Mr. Jenkins to talk to me, tell the story he told me. I said to him at the wedding, I want you to tell this to a bigger audience, because this is really important stuff for us to know. It'll teach us a lot about how to deal with this. And so I want him to tell the story. And it took a lot to convince him to come here. He's had to make a big trip, and he was late and all that stuff, and I know it was stressful for you. But I'm really, really glad you're here, and I want the audience to hear. So I wanted to give him, that's why I stopped you, Edward. I want to give him, as much time as he wants. And then what we'd like to do at 1 o'clock is switch over to Dr. Wilson. Dr. Wilson's dealing with some kids right now for us who are demonstrating some pretty weird behaviors, and he wanted to give you some ideas and pointers for how to manage some of that, and some referrals and some techniques for that. So I thought that would be a good way to talk about where we were and where we hopefully are going. So I'll stop there and ask Mr. Jenkins to talk. And Mr. Jenkins, if you want to, you don't have to talk for the whole time. I'm thinking we could ask questions. I'm sure this audience has a ton of questions of you.
He likes to
Do
talk.
whatever you want. It's
Okay.
The floor is yours.
All right. I had to really think through, as she asked me to come here, how much I wanted to try to share, because sometimes some of the stuff that happens to these children is just so traumatic and so heavy for them, till it's hard to think about sharing that with other people outside of the arena of the private time that you have with them. This is a special young man. That's a special one back there. And their cohorts in crime. Believe me.
Crime, good crime.
Good crime. All right. I'm sure I wasn't here at the beginning, but they came into this city on a one-way ticket from Philadelphia. They had exhausted all of the funding, resources, and everything else, I think, in the whole place there. And so they found out that they had one relative in Georgia, and so they put his mother and those kids on a one-way bus ticket to Atlanta, Georgia, so they could be in the Atlanta system. And so that's how they got here. They actually started really embellishing her when she first got here, because she was saying, I want to get off these drugs, I want to do what I need to do, I want to be good. And so they got her, I think, like a 4-bedroom apartment with bunk beds, had everything all set up, and the freezer full of food, and those kind of things to get them started. And the caseworker told me about 3 weeks later they went over and the freezer was out in the front yard. She'd sold a lot of the meat and that kind of stuff for her habit. Then when they told me that there was an older kid that was actually providing for the younger ones, and that kind of piqued my interest. For me, in my group home setting, I was very, very particular about who was going to come in there. I wanted kids who were really not going to be able to return back home and didn't have any places for that. Sometimes with the in and out stuff, it's so hard to get them stabilized and get them, because you have them coming in and out and that kind of stuff. So I would handpick, and back then you had the luxury of being able to handpick who you wanted. So he kind of piqued my interest. And I really was just impressed with how much he was doing to try to survive and to have his siblings survive. I had him in for the interview and stuff, and he was really stern, like, who are you? What? Like, I'm who I am, and you're going to be what? That's what this is about. And I think right away recognized that there was a sternness about him, there's a determination about him to do what he needed to do to get things done by any means necessary for him at that point to get it done, and basically to take care of his siblings. When we first got to the group home, he was in this adult mode, if you will, where he was just, he was going to run things, and I don't understand why y'all do it like this, and this is the way we do it, and this is what you're going to need to do. He was very, very resistant at first. Most of that was centered around, where are my brothers and sisters? Where are they? I need to know. And that was a big concern. I had to do a lot of coaching, a lot of nurturing, a lot of reassurance that I was going to see that those brothers and sisters were taken care of. He didn't believe me because in the past, people have said things and not followed through with that. And so it was very difficult for him. A lot of coaching. But once he realized that I could try to keep most of the brothers and sisters in the family's first system, and that's where I worked at that time, to foster homes and stuff that where I could keep connections with them. And so it was easier for him to kind of accept, okay, well, they're over this Miss So-and-so's house, and they're over here, the twins are over there, and so we could have some connections. I'm telling you, from, I guess, all those years that I was doing social work, I never got that little twinkling until I had to deal with him about how important it is to have that family link. I can give these kids food, clothing, and shelter, give them tennis shoes, braces, everything they need, but unless they feel some connection to some family, it doesn't work. Once I got that in my head, and he taught me that, it was easier. It was easier because if I could find somebody in New York or anywhere for one of these kids and say, you know, listen, and sometimes I would literally have to call them and say, I've got this kid in my group home and stuff. What? We didn't even know she had any more children. Is she dead? Okay. I just need you to send him a birthday card. I need for you to let him call you at Christmas. I need you to let him call you on his birthday. Just those links. Well, he can't come stay with us. I have to talk to your husband tonight. I know this is a call that you didn't expect. Can you please just do that? And I'll call back the next day. Did you ask him? Yeah, he said he guess okay, it'd be a card and stuff. And so sometimes I would literally send a birthday card in the mail to them for them to sign, to send back to these boys so that they would have that link. You would not believe. I've had kids come into a therapy session and 6 months later have something in their back pocket. And I was like, what do you got in your back pocket? Oh, it's nothing. Pull it out. It's that card. That's the link. They would do better in school, everything else, if they felt like that link was there. I never once, and he can tell you this to this day, never said anything derogatory about their parents. I wanted them to, because that's always a person that's going to be on this pedestal regardless. I don't care what they did to you, how you felt, what you did. That person is always going to be on a pedestal for you. And they should be. They gave you life. Now, some of those things in between, we have to deal with in terms of your adjusting and how you're going to be and how you're going to feel about those things, how it's going to impact you later on. I worked really hard with these guys about that. I remember literally taking them to Ryan's and stuff. Thought I was the best social worker. They probably don't even remember this. We went to Ryan's and I thought, oh, they're going to get this nice meal and everything. I went to the restroom to wash my hands. I came back out. They had plates. And that tells you how long it was. Ryan's is not even around anymore. They had plates like this. I'm like, what are y'all doing? I could not believe it. And they were just running back and forth, getting more food and this kind. I said, you can go back. You don't. I was so upset. I said, get in the van. What? We got all this food. Get in the van. We got in that van, came back home, had hot dogs. Oh, I don't know what I did. Did I do anything? We had hot dogs that night, and they were very, very upset, and I was very, very upset too. And so I said, the next time you see Ryan's, you will know how to do stuff. These boys learned how to set a table, how to get ready for dinner, how to prepare themselves for dinner. They'd ask every week, when are we going back? I don't know. I don't know. I was very upset. I always wanted them to feel that any time, and these kids loved money. So anytime, at any place, you could be sitting next to somebody who's willing to pay 7 boys, $20 an hour to come and do some stuff for them. you don't get that opportunity because of the way you're acting. You only get one chance to make a first impression. One chance. The second time, they're going to always look at you different. You can go the next day in a three-piece suit. They're going to remember what you did the first day. Got to keep that in mind. How you present yourself, how you come across. So next time, and when we did finally go back, they were very mannerable. I had tipped that waitress $20 out of my pocket that day when we had to leave and stuff, and she was like, but I said, you're going to have to take it back. This is a lesson learned for them. And so you just have to throw away the food, I'm sorry. And so we got back there, but by the time they went back there, they were very, very happy and very, very attentive to what they needed to do and how they needed. Mr. Jenkins, is it okay if I go get another helping? Sure. That's what this is for. But anyway, finally Edward got to trust me, and that was like instant relief for him. He started to get a different scope about who he was and what his role was, that he didn't have to be the adult figure, that I was going to be that for him at that point, that he could get relieved, that his siblings and stuff were going to be taken care of. They're going to have food. I don't have to steal boxes of macaroni and grits. He used to leave school early and steal these things and take them back home so that they would have food because Mom wouldn't be there. So she was there enough so that they still knew that she was the mom because she would come back and forth, but he had to take the reins on and be the person who was going to be there for them and for those siblings to be able to thrive. He got them through some really, really heavy, heavy times. And I'm sure when the DFACS workers and stuff would come, he would cover, do what he needed to do, talk so they wouldn't be separated, or whatever they need to do. He was a survivor. That was one of the things that intrigued me about him. Character that you could build on. That I wanted him to always know that he had potential to be able to do whatever he wants to do. And that was important for me. I wrote down some notes so I wouldn't stray because I'd like to talk to. We had house parents, and as Edward started to really accept the fact that I was going to take charge of the siblings and that he could relax and be a child, he took that literally. I mean, crawling around on the floor, literally hitting, like he said, the boys on the head, running back to his room, hiding in the closet. And one of the most interesting things he would do is hoard food. He would get food off at the dinner table and take an extra biscuit or extra roll and stuff and find it in his, he's not going to eat it. He's just sitting in his drawer and stuff. And I go, because I would do room checks, believe me. But they would, I would find food and stuff in there. And it's just from the habit of there may not be another meal. There may not be another time. And I had to sit him down several times and go, am I not feeding you enough? And even at that point, he started realizing, I'm getting a little chubby here. And so he started to really, really develop a sense of who he was, take some ownership of his body and what was going on with him and how he needed to appear. And I fought tooth and nail. I mean, my agency was really tight with money, as everybody else's is in terms of stuff. And so I did some little fundraisers, all kinds of stuff for these two people that had these beautiful smiles. Look at it. Look at that one back there. Big old smiles. Okay, because they had braces on those teeth, and I was determined to get those for them. It really made a difference in terms of their self-image and their self-esteem, their thoughts about themselves and how they were. DFACS wasn't going to pay for any braces, so I had to do some fundraising to get that done. I knew that he was starting to take ownership of himself and try to build his character some when he came and told me, I'm not eating this food anymore. I'm a vegetarian. What? I knew you when you used to tear up some meat, but now I'm a vegetarian. Oh, okay, I don't do that anymore. Okay, well, you're going to eat something. And so we would cook stuff, and then the house parents started trying to accommodate and stuff. Once he was doing all this crawling around the floor, though, that was the point that the house parents were calling me and saying, excuse me, either we're leaving or he's leaving. We can't take it anymore. He's just out of control. You've got to get some medication. You've got to slow him down. You've got to do something. And so I went out there and just hold up, and we can try to. And I think it was only because of my experience with children and not feeling like that we needed to rush to do anything. I mean, we had DFACS staffings at my agency, and they said, put the child on some medicine. Go ahead and do it. Mr. Jenkins, don't get crazy. Just don't do it. Just don't put him through that. You're making him suffer. And I was convinced that if we could just get him through that period where he could adjust to it, he would get past it. And so I coached a lot with the house parents and stuff to get them to tolerate some of the behaviors and stuff. The other boys were feeling like he was getting privileges and this kind of stuff because he was getting away with a lot of stuff. But it was only, they didn't have the same kind of experiences that he had had in terms of being able to do that. Once they got the whiff of that, they started to help him. Ms. Jenkins, you know what he did last night, don't you? And they were thinking he would get mad at them, want to fight or whatever. But they would start to tell so that they could help him structure it as opposed to keeping secrets and stuff for him. Because he's a pretty good person at being able to get a little pack going where they wouldn't tell on each other, and that he can get by with a lot of stuff. But I had them on sort of an honor system and stuff in terms of what they would do. And I think when he was talking just a few minutes ago about how he was trying to please me, I just prided myself in being able to have them feel like that they could trust me, trust what I was doing for them. I mean, and when you get children that can get to that level with you, you could twist their arm around behind their back and they would go with you. Okay, because they really trust that you're going to do that. House parents would come and go. Their stint was usually about 2 years at the most. They couldn't take any more. And so they would leave. And I expected that. They're going to be coming and going. But it was really about what stability they were going to have. And every time the house parents would leave, we had a little meeting and say, they're going to be leaving. And said, you're not going anywhere, are you? They knew, and they had adjusted to the house parents going, but don't you leave us. And I promised them that I would not do that. And to this day, those same 7 boys can call me up and everything, and it's a whole different arena for us to be able to connect and to have that kind of bond. I wrote some notes I went to. He started to take more pride in his education, and that was hard for him. He used to always say to me, well, he didn't always say it, he said it a couple of times, and I just stopped him. I said, I don't want those words to ever come out of your mouth again. I'm never going to be anything. You know I came from nothing, and I'm never going to be anything. You won't say that again to me. You are something right now, and that's what you're going to be. You are going to enhance where you are. You're going to make something of yourself. And I think I remember the look on his face like, what are you talking about? Like I was in a foreign country as I said that he had never really taken ownership of the fact that he could do something, okay? I had a pact at the school that, with the principal, that I used to, I mean, they probably even knew this. I used to walk, the principal said, you can come anytime you want. I had 7 boys there. He was like, any help you can give us, we'll take it, you know. And so I had a pact with him that I could come, and I would drive to the school and wait to sit in my car, wait till the bell rang, and then just go and walk down the hall. And during the school break, and I'd hear kids go, is that your dad? Is that your dad, man? Is that your dad? Yeah, that's my dad, that's my dad. Because they didn't want them to know they were in a group home setting and this kind of stuff. They just say, that's my dad. And then I would just, as soon as they exchanged classes, go back, get in my car, drive back to the group home, wait till they got home in the afternoon. I could hear them in there whispering. And they'd come by. Hey, Mr. Jenkins, how you doing? How you doing, Mr. Jenkins? I'm good, I'm good. How you doing, Mr. Jenkins? How you doing? I'm good, I'm good. Good day, good day. Y'all have a good day? Nothing else. Just leave it silent till it's time for group. And then they go, Mr. Jenkins mad. I could tell by the way he was saying. He mad. He mad about something. Somebody did something. Did y'all see him at school today? He was there for somebody. Somebody in trouble. Somebody in trouble. And usually that would be around something that I'd heard about at the school or something I was worried about one of them smoking or whatever, some kind of stuff. And sometimes I would just find a cigarette butt out there in the yard. It could have been the maintenance man who dropped it. But I would get a cigarette butt, wrap it up in a little tissue and bring it, sit it down beside me before we get ready to start group. This one would always say, something wrong. We can't start group until you tell us what's wrong. We can't take it. Something you got to tell us. And I said, I'm just so hurt. Somebody in this house has the audacity to smoke. The audacity. What's in there? I said, somebody's smoking in this house. I can feel it. I know it. You got 24 hours. I used to always give them 24 hours. You can take it, whatever contraband you got, you can take it and put it by the house parents' door in the middle of the night, whatever you need to do, just so it's there in the morning, and it's a done deal. If nothing's at that door tomorrow, oh, you know. I go through those rooms, throw all that stuff in the floor, and tell them if they want to run away, run away. Don't take anything because we bought this stuff. Okay? I ain't going to be taking those plastic bags and stuff up and down the street, and they're still trying to follow you to your next placement. Take the drawers you got on, and you go. With that, they really believed that I meant that. And I did. You're getting privileges here that other kids are begging to have, and you're choosing not to take them. I don't do that. You know, don't leave those tennis shoes in the middle of the floor. They're going to be in my office for a week. And they couldn't stand it because you couldn't buy tennis shoes for each one of them every 3 months like they wanted, all this stuff. So they would trade them around. Some of them had bigger feet than the others. They put socks or paper in the box and wear different to go with their tennis shoes because they didn't want to be joned at school for, but I couldn't afford it. I couldn't do it. And I remember one of them running away one time and said, I'm going to run away. I'm so mad. He got mad out of the group and he's walking around. I said, you can run as far as the street. If you get past this gravel road, you are gone. And I used to tell him that all the time. Don't run, walk. You can go if you want to go. And so I remember, this is Al, he ran away one time. And I said, because if you pass me, if I drive up that street and you are past that tree that's at the bottom, at the top of that road up there, you are officially run away, okay? Don't come back, don't bring nothing, don't nothing. You really mean that, don't you? Yes, I do. I went there and he was pouring down rain. He's standing under the tree, getting this. Pouring down rain. He's standing under the tree. He wasn't going to pass that tree though. And they know that if they take off, I'll give them a few minutes, and if they don't come back, I'm coming down that street looking for them. I'm not going to let them be out there. And it was almost a mile or so for the first bus that they could get to. So they'd have to walk a long time to get there. So I'd have a good bit of time to get there. But anyway, and I also really pushed for them because I always knew that there would be some point where I wouldn't be with them all the time, that I had to move on, I had to do some other things, and I couldn't be with them. So I always wanted them to get a spiritual element that they might not have gotten in the past, or if they had it in the past and didn't use it, I wanted them to always have that spiritual component. We couldn't make them go to church, but it was embedded in my statement when I left on Friday. Don't think you're going to sleep in that bed all Sunday morning. That ain't happening. Do something. And so they would have house parents, and then they got wind of that Creflo Dollar's church had an early service, so they go to that so they could have the rest of the day. Because they knew if I came back on Monday, I couldn't say, I'm mad because you didn't go to church. But they could tell. There was a little tune when we got back that they didn't do that. They started employing things about the church that they liked, and then they found a little church. They didn't want to go to Creflo's. They found a little church up the street and across the street that they could go to, get over there and get really back home, get to see the football game and that kind of stuff. So whatever worked, it was fine with me. But for all of them, it started to develop in them a real sense of spirituality that I knew that they would need long after I was gone. Okay? Let me see. It was interesting because as he started to develop, he started to think in terms of ways that he could mentor his siblings. We had a lot of things at Families First in terms of activities, picnics, gatherings, and that kind of stuff, where the foster children as well as the group home children would get together and stuff. So he got to interchange, and he'd just be marveled at how much they had grown, how much they had developed, and those kind of things. But I would keep him posted. Every time when they had to move someplace or do something, I would always tell him. And I remember, especially at every Christmas party, because we had those gatherings and stuff, he would come, everybody would be having fun and doing what they needed to do. He would seek me out. And just as you saw him when I walked up here, he would always grab me, always kisses me in the same place right here. And that means so much to me. You just don't know how much that carries for me. in terms of his appreciation and his level of caring beyond. And so that was a big link. We could keep the family stuff going. He knew that was going to be there. And I think it motivated him to start trying to mentor his brother and try to get some things for them. He knew that sometimes they were in foster homes and stuff where they weren't getting what he was getting. And he was saying, well, I want to take these socks and stuff. I just bought you those socks. I want to take these to my brother. Oh, no. You know, I'll get him some socks. You keep those. But he was still into that mode of making sure that they were being taken care of. Once he was accepting that, we did so much better, and he thrived. He was able to graduate from school, high school, and go off to college. And I was one proud person. You hear me? One proud person. That person in the back did some good stuff, too. He's got another story. Okay. Now that they're in their 20s, I reflect back on how many things we went through, how many ups and downs. The school used to call and say, you know, one of them got into a fight with this, and they did this, and they did that, and this. I knew these boys so well. I could tell the principal, no, that wasn't him. Now, it might have been the other one, but that was not him. And because I knew them. I knew them. I remember going to court and stuff with Anthony, and they wanted to keep him down there, saying the defects worker had come, and she says, well, I don't know what else we can do. They're going to hold him because they said he did all this stuff. And we got past court, and they were just like saying, you know, they're going to keep him. What? You're not keeping my child down here. And so they said the judge was through for the day, but they would have a break and stuff, and she might come back in the afternoon. I found out where her office was. I went down there and sat right on that bench, right, waiting. I knew she had to go to the bathroom at some point. And so she came out of there, and she said, weren't you the guy that was in court and stuff earlier? I said, yes, but they told me I couldn't talk. I said, I got to take my child home. Who are you talking? He's going home with me tonight. She went back and she says, well, didn't the lawyer? I said, I wrote a script out for him, but he didn't follow it. I said, they wouldn't let me talk. I said, but he's got to go home with me tonight. He's going to did that? Can you still hear me? Okay, good. So at any rate, got him home and chastised him, but we got past different stumbling blocks throughout their lives, and different things happened for different sets of them. You know, we had a set of brothers and stuff that were there and stuff that, you know, needed hearing aids and those kinds of things. I would go to bat for them well beyond where it was, and I would always be sort of reprimanded at work, but you are spending too much time out there. These boys are not appreciating you. You just don't know. Look where they are. Look where they are. Stand up. They warm my heart when they call. Sometimes they don't call as often as I need for them to call.
Call them on text.
Yeah, and now they text a whole lot. I had to learn how to text so I could communicate with them. But they text, and Pops just want to make sure. And I graduated from Mr. Jenkins to Mr. J to now Pops. And I really feel like that's a huge graduation because they really feel like the investment and stuff and the time and energy that I tried to put in each one of them and tried to instill in each one of them in terms of someone caring, being there for them. And I hope it'll always be with them as they raise their own families, as they go out into the world and get the challenges and stuff that are always going to be there for them. I want them to always remember that somebody was there, and it'll always be there. Okay? I'm glad I got through it too.
Now we will open the floor up for questions.
Yeah.
I just want to say that.
Okay. I've been doing this for a while. Around should anyone need it.
Should I just speak? Oh. 1, 2, no. Mr. Jenkins, first let me just thank you, just on behalf of every social worker out here in this world. You're a role model for us. But do you find that policy and procedure stops a lot of parents or social workers in your position from going above and beyond? Because what you did was go above and beyond your job title, and you worked from the heart versus the paycheck. So do you find that policy and procedures, sometimes stop a social worker from doing all that they can do? Because like you said, they was telling you, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're doing too much. Like, how did you feel about that?
I just would always get in there and act real pitiful. Real pitiful. I mean, and when I would go to functions, because I would tell them, okay, if you don't want to do it, don't want to think they need it, then what can I do to raise some money? Because they got to have it. And I would just really kind of work. Once you start doing that, they see that you're really trying to push. You're pushing the envelope. It's not our policy to do this and stuff, but we can raise some money. We can do that. And so I would do little things. We'd have the car wash and stuff out there in the back, and wash all the employees' cars and stuff at Families First and stuff, and make some money to be able to go on a trip. Or some of these boys had never seen a beach before, and I was doing a talk and stuff one time. And when I wasn't around them, I used to always call them orphans, because that's what they were. That's how the state saw them, as orphans. And when I wasn't around them and I was doing talks and speeches and stuff, I would say, I'm raising 7 orphans. Silence. When you say orphans, or you say foster care, oh, somebody's going to take care of them. They got money, the state will take care of them. You say orphans, that takes you back to no shoes, holes in the socks, torn shirt when they go to school, everything. It takes your mind in a different place when you say orphans. And that's where it used to. I mean, this lady, I said to that, she was out visiting a group home while they were at school, and she was visiting with one of the board members or something, and she said, and I said, I'm just determined these boys are going to get to a beach and stuff one day, just in passing, just saying it. And she said, could you get me one of your cards? And so I walked out to the car to get a card, and she walked with me. The administrator and stuff stayed back was talking to another woman that was there, and she said, did you say those boys have never seen a beach? And I said, yeah, but I'm going to get them there at some point. She says, I want to write you a check. She said, do I write it out in your name? Oh, no, my bills are due, honey. Don't write it in my name. I said, write it in Families First, but put on there for these boys to go to a beach, and they won't be able to spend it anyplace else. And that's how I used to do things. And she wrote a check. I thought she, probably $100 or something, get them to a beach. $1,000. $1,000 to get them to the beach, and they were able to see a beach. They'd already just read about it in school and stuff, never seen one, and the house parents and stuff took them for a trip to the beach. It's just kind of things. I just kind of pushed the envelope each time. I knew when to draw back. I didn't want to be fired, because then I wouldn't have them at all. So I really kind of pushed the envelope, though.
I was wanting to find out, how long was Edward in that, I guess, reversion period where he was acting like a child? And during that time, were you able to prevent him from having some type of medication assessment, or was he assessed and it was determined he didn't need medication? How long did it last, and what did you do to keep him off of the meds other than go to the
staffings and saying,
okay,
I believe that he can change. Let's try to give me a little bit more time. They give me another week, 2 weeks, whatever, but I just prolonged it as long as I could, because I was convinced that he could come through this. It took probably about 4 months or so, because he really, really tested the limits with that, because he didn't believe that, the stuff at first about me being able to take care of the kids. Once he got that, it really just reverted him all the way back. I mean, infantile stuff. But I was willing to go through that with him, and I helped the house parents, coach them to the point where they were willing to go to bat with me. And so I just continued to process. You know how we like to process stuff, and you just keep processing and processing and processing until they give up and they let you kind of go. There was never really a formal assessment. I felt like I was capable enough to do that myself. I was a social worker and I had my license, and so I could do that. But and I had assessed on my own that I didn't think we needed to go that far. But there were kids in the group home that were on medications, so I know the difference. And I was real clear, but I certainly didn't want that for him because I didn't feel like that he'd gotten the fair shake to be able to not have to do that. Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here. This is about the best thing that I could have done for myself. We're so proud of Edward. I'm Sharon Hill, and I'm with DFACS, and I co-facilitate a meeting each month with the commissioner and some private providers. And I think for those of us who are at those meetings, if this had happened a month ago, we would have felt so much smarter. But one of the a focus that we've had in the last couple of months has been, what is it that we can do, should do, to convince, persuade youth to remain in care at 18? And, you know, when we look back at our data, we know that over 60% of our youth do not sign themselves back into care, even though we know that they're not educationally where they need to be. And you know, we're now following youth who leave care and find that they have some poor outcomes. So I think, particularly to Edward and both of you, what is it that you think we can do, or how do we go about this mission of convincing youth to stay in care until they have completed their education or have some adult connection, as you all talked about, you know, before they leave us?
Me and Anthony, we talk about this all the time because we deal a lot with what we call our brothers and sisters in foster care. We do a lot of advocating and talking with youth, and a lot of them don't want to stay in care. And even though I love, like, my situation in foster care, I just wanted to be finished with it at 18. I wanted to be done because I just felt like I would always be labeled as a foster kid, and I wanted to move past that. I wanted to just be Edward Washington, not the foster kid Edward Washington. So it was just like nothing bad had happened to me. I just wanted to be away from it, to start a new chapter in my life. But when I told Mr. Jenkins, he was like, you know, I was like, I don't want to sign myself back in. And he wouldn't let me sign myself out. Like, he was like, Edward, it wasn't like it was a choice for me. Like I said I didn't want to do it because I didn't understand, like, what the benefits were. But he knew. He was like, Edward, you're not signing yourself back out of care. So he wouldn't let me sign myself out of care. That's the first thing. But for the youth now, a lot of them, it has to do with early on with trust. Because, like, me and Anthony always talk about these walls. Like, if everybody keep lying to them in the system that's supposed to take care of them, then they're going to want to get as far away from the lies that they can. Nobody want to stay around lies all the time. So if people in this system that's supposed to protect and supposed to nurture us, and a lot more times the system that's supposed to protect us and a lot of circumstances end up hurting us worse because we go to some situation where we're molested, and we weren't molested in the home. Maybe it was neglect in the home, but they're being molested here, or they're being beaten here, they're not being fed here. And this is the system that took me away from everything else when it wasn't that bad. Why would I stay in this system? So, I mean, it's not one clear-cut thing. It has to do with actually trusting the agency and trusting the system, because the system, I find out when we talk to youth, ultimately lets a lot of these youth down. And they don't want to put another 4 years until they graduate college back into the system, or they experience some type of educational advancement. They don't want to put that back in the system. They don't want to. They feel like I'll be able to make it on my own, and I won't have to deal with the rules. I'm 18. I don't want to have to follow these rules again. I don't want to have to listen to somebody again. I don't want to have to experience all these same things that I've been experiencing. So let me just distance myself. Now, once again, I didn't have any of those things. I just wanted to be Edward Washington, normal. But Mr. Jenkins, he wouldn't allow such a thing.
Edward, I have a follow-up question to that. If it were called something else besides signing yourself back into foster care, if it was like treated as you're as an 18-year-old adult or signing a contract with DFACS to receive some services, and it had a different okay.
It's just,
all right.
It's not even the name. It's just the whole word, DFACS. Like
okay.
It's like when we first come into care, we don't sign anything.
Right.
So a lot of us are not, like, mentally prepared to sign something. And, like, what are we signing? Like, are we signing our life away? Do we have to stay in this group home? Do we have to go up under the rules? I'm 18 now. When I first was coming in the system, you said at 18 I would age out. So when I sign myself, am I still have to follow these rules? Do I still have to deal with DFACS rules? And it's just a whole lot of that.
So if it were maybe a different, like the Department of Human Services contract you signed, that
we
might
know what that
make a
means
difference.
now.
Okay. I'm just trying.
I mean, we have like the benefit, like with me and Anthony, we're part of a group called Georgia Empowerment. And we didn't have a group like this when we were in foster care. So now we have this group and we educate them on such terminologies and such things that we use that they might not know. So they know all the lingo now. It's just really about trust and helping them understand what the benefits are of signing yourself back into care. Because I didn't understand what the benefits were. I didn't know that when I signed myself back into care, I would receive, I call it the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Because you've been through so much in foster care, and you don't know that this is pot of gold that you can sign yourself back in care and receive all these services. Like, I didn't know about these services, and so I didn't know that I could receive all these services. Like, ILP wasn't very relevant to me at that time. And it was just starting to get relevant about 17, and it was just, I know now at 14 they're really supposed to get into your life, and it really wasn't that for me. So it was just like, I don't really care what ILP, I don't know what they do. They pay for college, so like, do I really want to go? And so it's kind of like you don't, once you catch them at 14, they have a better chance of understanding by 18. So I think ILP is really, really important to get into their life by 14 and catch them. So 18, they understand what they're signing themselves back into. Because when I came up, like, I didn't know what I was signing myself back to until he told me. And even if I wanted not to sign my, that wasn't a choice. So I keep reiterating that. I had no choice.
Yeah, one of the things that's clear to me is what has really made a difference in your life is that you had someone focus on you individually and someone who was there for you consistently, who was Mr. Jenkins. And Mr. Jenkins mentioned that the house parents would, come and go. How many caseworkers did you have during the time that you were in care? And I guess the second part of that is that from your perspective, would it have also added to your experience if you had like more consistent people working with you in addition to Mr. Jenkins?
I remember when we first came to Georgia, I had one caseworker. I was probably 11. And she was the best name like ever. Her name was Miss Culpepper. And she worked in the Fulton County system. She was like just tall, just the best name ever. I wanted her around all the time. Like, and so like when she left, like she was just like working with services and helping us before we even came into foster care. So she was my very first one. And then I didn't know another one until like Ray Swopes. That name just flies off. And he was really, not really good, to be honest. He wasn't really good. So I just remember two. Those were like the only two. I'm pretty sure I had more than two because like things kept changing. But Mr. Jenkins, he was like, I looked at him as my social worker. Anything I needed, he would like make sure that he got in touch with my social worker from DFAC and make sure I had rides to certain places, or if they needed to bring a panel review or something like that, he would make sure that was taken care of. So I didn't like really talk to a caseworker. I never really talked to Mr. Swope unless Mr. Jenkins called, and Ms. Culpepper, that was before we even came in care. So that was really never an issue. And I forgot the second part of your question, I'm sorry.
Which signals me that we're probably ready for a break. As much as I hate to cut this off, I know that Mr. Jenkins and Edward will be hanging around with us for a few minutes, and I'm sure you can come up to them during the break. We'll take about 10 minutes before we reconvene for the remainder of the program. There are some refreshments in the back of the room.